Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to NOLA Theater Talk. My name is Alan Smason, and we broadcast usually on Monday nights, the nights when theaters are traditionally dark. But tonight, we have a special Friday night edition of NOLA Theater Talk, and the reason why we're having it is that we have a cast that will be performing on Monday night and Tuesday night and Wednesday night and Thursday night. They're doing a little bit of counter-programming to the traditional Friday, Saturday, Sunday days that theater is usually seen in this town. And so we want to, again, direct your attention right above me. If you can see, you'll notice there's a fat squirrel logo there. And that signifies the fact that we're going to talk about the latest Fat Squirrel show, which is showing up at the Ty Tracy Theater in Gallier Hall. And that, of course, would be the Baltimore Waltz. We like to bring in the cast of the Baltimore Waltz right now. And we're going to tell you that right at the very beginning, that Desiree Burrell, who is the director of the Baltimore Waltz, had to bow out tonight. She's not feeling well. We want to wish her a speedy recovery and hope that she feels better much, much, much sooner than she probably will. But we are at least hoping that will be the case. Let's bring in Carl, and we'll bring in Anna, and we'll bring in, of course, Michael. And, of course, they are respectively John Broder, Elise McDaniel, and Michael Stone. And, again, welcome to NOLA Theater Talk. I appreciate you guys being here. It's not often that you can get an entire cast of a show into another show, but that's what we did tonight so far. And with the exception of the director, we would have had the director and the entire cast, but we were fortunate to have everybody here. Last Monday, we had almost the entire cast of Vanya, Sonia, Masha, and Spike. So you guys have beaten the Crescent City stage. Now,
I guess we had a 33% chance of doing that.
In any event, I have to say that I saw the show, and again, I really would encourage everybody who has not got any plans for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of next week to certainly look into getting tickets to go see this. First off, it's the first time that a show, and I'm not talking about a sing-along karaoke or whatever that they might have done. It's the first time that I know of that a show has been done by Fat Squirrel in the Ty Tracy Theater, a legitimate play. And I know that they did do the Lion King, something like the Lion King a couple weeks back, but it's not exactly the same as it would have been for a play of this sort. And again, this is written by Paula Vogel and the Baltimore Waltz. We're going to talk about the story about what got it started. But as usual, we like to have everybody. This started, right before the pandemic was starting, et cetera. And I was trying to figure out what the heck to do. And as a little icebreaker, I said, let's have, this is New Orleans, it's a party town. Let's have everybody bring something to drink, because everybody's trying to share experiences with one another. So we started that in the pandemic, and we've continued it. It's a tradition. So when you come into the room, we interview people. And yes, people have come in without a drink, and guess what? I've kicked them out. Go get a drink. So tonight I am having, in your honor, after your wonderful performance, I'm having a little bit of something that'll make you blue, because it is indeed Johnny Walker Blue Label.
Oh, that's fancy, yeah.
Fancy schmancy. And a Norland glass. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a double insulated glass, so that even though I'm touching it right now, the heat from my fingers will not touch the scotch.
Awesome.
That is fancy.
And it tastes just like it sounds. Okay, John, up for you now. What did you bring in?
I am also fancy. This is a ruby grapefruit White Claw with a 5% alcohol content. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I'm really pushing the limits of what my body can handle.
All right, and we'll go with Michael before we have Elise. I'm sure Elise is going to have something fancy schmancy.
So this is a Beefeater gin on the rocks with 2 olives in a Crate and Barrel lowball glass.
Nice, very nice. All right,
a dimpled Crate and Barrel lowball glass.
Now wait a minute. Now how many olives do you have in that, please?
I have 2 enormous queen olives.
So you know that it's supposed to be bad luck not to have an odd number of olives. I don't know if you knew that.
Ooh.
Better to have 1 and 3
That explains
than
a
to
lot
have
about
2.
the progression of my life.
So next time, go for the 3rd olive. Okay,
right.
You are, after all, the 3rd man, and we'll get to that in a second, right? Okay, Elise, let's see what you got.
All right. I mean, siblings here. I've also got a White Claw. Mine's a vodka soda flavor. It's peach. Only 4.5% alcohol in mine. I'm taking it easy.
All right. Okay. All right, everybody. Let's just start at the very beginning. 1988, I believe it was. The playwright Paula Vogel was planning to go on a trip to Europe with her brother, and unfortunately, her brother contracted AIDS, and before they could go on that trip, he passed away.
Yeah.
And the next year, she was working in a and it could have been 87 or 88, but I'm trying to remember. But the next year, she was working in a workshop, and she decided to do this as part of an experimental workshop to kind of like cathartically release her feelings. But she did not want to mention AIDS. You know, she wanted to kind of talk about a disease and wanted to post her thoughts about it. So within the framework of the Baltimore Waltz, you never hear the words acquired immune deficiency syndrome. You never hear AIDS mentioned. What they do come up with is ATS, which is an acquired toilet syndrome, as they say. Again, she's not making fun of it, but she's trying to kind of deflect. And I think the idea is that rather than make this about the disease, she's making it about the people who are getting the disease. And in terms of what she does, and I'm not going to reveal the scope of the whole thing, but it is a love letter essentially to her brother in a sense, and trying to kind of imagine what it would have been had like they've been on the same trip, but with a big difference. And we're not going to reveal what the big difference is, but it is a really wonderful trip, and it's filled with all kinds of expressions regarding language, and there's a little bit of hedonism thrown in there for good measure, not for the kids, because there's a lot of bed hopping going on in the play. And I should also say that, and again, I don't know if you read this, but John, you might have read this. But when she did the dedication in the play, she wrote it to my brother Carl, because I can't sew,
Right.
which was a reference to the fact that she couldn't make a quilt,
Right.
and this was her way of contributing, to the AIDS quilt, if you will, some way of showing her love for her brother in I guess you might say in the way that she knew best, and the way that she knew how. So, go ahead, John.
It's really interesting how the pastiche of the play is sort of laid out like a quilt as well. Sort of several different pieces that are stitched together to sort of create the entire tapestry of the story.
You're absolutely right. I hadn't thought about that, but it is a pastiche. You could actually have taken some of the scenes before, but since it's sort of a progression of the trip that's being, I guess you might say, reported in a sense, it follows a logical,
right,
geographic way of dealing with it. When you read this, John, for the first time, was there anything that struck you about it that, obvious, other than the obvious point that I mentioned without revealing anything, but was there anything about it that you can talk about that maybe struck you as something that was of note to somebody who might not have known about this? I didn't know about it before. It was done apparently at the CAC 20 or more years ago, and I was not familiar with it at all. But had you been familiar with it? Had you seen it before?
No.
Okay.
I had never read it before. I was given the script by Andrea and Desiree, and one of the things that jumped out at me pretty much right away was how we were being given the same story of the journey of dying through the eyes of a straight woman, to mirror the experience of what gay men were going through at the time. And I found that really sort of touching because people sorry, let me arrange this thought. I found it really touching because people at the time that this play was produced, homosexuality was not as mainstream as it is now. And so without the barrier of entry being removed, that being, you know, telling the story through the eyes of a heterosexual person, it really just made it, I think, probably more available to people. They maybe were not put off in a way that they might have been if it had just been a gay play, which, you know, despite this being about the story of one sibling who is gay, other than sort of this metaphorical intrigue that is introduced, there's really not any mention of that. And I sort of found that kind of touching, in that she didn't feel the need to be so acute with her recognition of that.
So, Elise, you play Anna, who essentially is the heroine, and of course, Carl being the brother of Anna, and in a sense, you are the voice of the playwright. She's putting her voice into your character. Tell me about when you first did the reading as well. Is there something about the character that struck you?
Oh man, well, that's a big question. Well, I joined onto this pretty late into the project, I would say. So my first time reading it was pretty close to when we started rehearsing. So the first reading of it, I honestly was just struck by how, you know, on theme it felt like with the month, it being Pride Month. And I don't know, it was just, there were so many little things in it that I had no idea what they were. I kept having to go back and reread it, Google over and over again. I feel like there's just so many layers to this play that it's one that I could keep reading and keep finding things to keep thinking about.
But now you're noted mostly as a singer. I mean, you made most of your characters singing. So is this a leap for you?
Yes and no. It is a leap in a way that I haven't done this in a very long time, but it is close to my heart. I really do enjoy doing, you know, harder, straighter acting things. It's just not something that really is available in New Orleans all the time, I feel like. So I was really excited to have the opportunity to, you know, sink my teeth into something a little meatier.
Well, I think you do a very good job. And again, I want to say that I enjoyed this show. I want to remind everybody that it is Monday through Thursday at Ty Tracy Theater. And we're only going to be able to keep him for a while because he has to take care of the young'uns, as it were. But Michael Stone, you play the literal third man, but you're not just one man, right? What are you, 11 different characters?
I think it's 11 different characters.
And the theme, the choice of the words "the third man" come back to haunt us because part of the show ends up in Vienna, which was, of course, right after World War II. The scene of Harry Lime, the third man that Orson Welles had shot, and I think it was shot very close after the World War was over, like 46 or something like that. Orson Welles did it, and shot partially in the sewers of Vienna. And along the whole streets, etc. You know, they just barely started to recover from the war, etc. So again, but you're not just in Vienna. You're in Paris, and you're in Germany, and you're in Holland, and other places, and you play as you said, a litany of characters.
Yeah. It is. You know, she's very smart. Our Paula, in how she deploys the first man to help move the story along, to help tell the story to the audience, to help contextualize what's happening, to help sort of create these, you know, broad characters that create a contrast with some of the quieter, more intimate moments in the play. You know, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's it's an intense couple of hours.
Well, you also use a lot of times to explain different parts of language, correct?
Yeah, so one of the sort of organizing principles is, the very first lines of the play are Anna reading from a phrase book and trying to remember phrases in French, Dutch, and German. And that becomes a theme, these lessons that one might pull out of some sort of language book, or I guess an audio cassette if we go back in our time machines to 1992. And that can become sort of an organizing principle to help shape the changes into each of these scenes. There are 30 scenes in the play, and it probably runs 90 minutes total, not including the intermission. And so they're pretty short scenes. Some of them are very short, some of them are a little longer. But those help to kind of create a button, create a shift, and move us kind of from one space into another space. And that's sort of a device that she uses to help drive that.
Okay, and I guess I have to ask, she also uses a device that is, maybe you understand a little bit more than I do, but the device of the yes. Explain to me, what do you think that's all about?
Well, Alan, we believe that it is the audience's is an opportunity for the audience to interpret for themselves what they think the rabbit represents. But our friends should join in here. But
Yeah.
There are a number of things. I think it represents, in many ways, John's innocence.
Carl's innocence. I have none left. Yeah.
John is not at all innocent. It's Carl's innocence. Carl's innocence as her brother. Carl's innocence in that this is not something that he deserved, getting this disease. It is a way to kind of humanize the character. I think it also represents his sexuality. And at the end, I won't talk about the end, but it's sort of like, in some ways, I don't know if you're familiar with his Dark Materials books, it's like almost his animal spirit, and that he cannot live without, literally. And so I think it's multiple layers and multiple things, and she is intentionally not explicit about it.
No,
in ways that I think are really cool.
And Elise, did you get anything out of that he didn't say already? I mean, since you're Anna.
That was pretty much, that's what I was thinking. It's funny. I had a bunch of friends come last night, and that was their number one question. What was the bunny? Like, can you tell me what the bunny was? And I was like, what do you think the bunny was?
Answer a question with a question. That's a very good thing to do. So I'm going to ask, since we're talking about the Third Man, et cetera, had you ever seen the film The Third Man, Michael?
I have. I was in this play as I played Carl in college, as the little Dutch boy would say, a very, very long time ago. And I watched The Third Man at the time, but I didn't watch it for this one because I remember thinking, there are some elements that resonate. There are some sort of mood elements that resonate, but she's basically like borrowing pieces of The Third Man to help tell her story, rather than having The Third Man be kind of integral in understanding the movie The Third Man, being integral in understanding what's happening in the story that she's trying to tell.
One thing also is that they actually do use a little bit of the Third Man theme, which is played. Do you know that the instrument is played on? Anybody know?
Zither.
Zither. Yes, it's a
in
good trivia question.
Script.
Yes. Oh, it is in the script. So y'all knew. So she cheated. She revealed that. But yeah, it's a zither, and it's a very strange kind of instrument to hear. Okay, you brought it up earlier, and I'm going to have to ask. Paula Vogel's a playwright. She's got some sexuality questions that may be brought up as well. She talks about this little Dutch boy and putting his finger in the. You understand what I'm talking about, right?
You can say it.
All right.
Everybody knows
it's a dam.
All right. The thumb goes in.
The thumb in the
Was she saying something more than just doing or was she taking liberties, you think?
I think she knew it would be funny. But I don't think that she was doing it to be,
Salacious
sexual
in
or
any way, huh?
yeah. But I
Okay.
think she knew for a fact that that word is just going to
It
get a
was
response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And it does every night.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
there's something else about that scene too. So in the scene, right, he gets his thumb stuck in the dike and he can't get it out, and his friends leave him, and he says in the scene, can't have enough bunnies. He says in the scene, my friends Pete and Jan, whatever they would tell me to do, I would do it.
Right.
And Carl says the same thing later on in the play, and there are so many times when that happens throughout the play. So she's sort of, it's sort of this silly scene that is kind of funny, but also gets sort of serious at some points. But it also has this kind of it harmonizes with other moments that other characters are going through. Carl's not even in that scene.
Yeah.
Other characters go through as well.
So you said you played this role some years ago. How long ago was it?
I played Carl in college in
How long ago was it, Michael?
1994, John. It was 1994.
All right. Okay. So are there notable differences in this production from that one in the way that you all, because you were a lot closer to the actual crisis in '94. It was still going on. They didn't have virus, drugs and things of that sort.
No. I mean, we were talking about this in backstage before the show the other day. I was in 3 shows my senior year in college, and I died of AIDS in all 3 of them. I was in Falsettos. I was in a play called The Living by a guy named Anthony Clairvaux. And there was just this explosion of plays because there was a very real sense, and justified, that the country was not taking this crisis seriously. And the theater community and writers, many of whom were very close to people who had gotten sick and died, some of whom got sick and died themselves. It became a cause. And, for those who were around then, I don't know if they still do this, but Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS has emerged out of that time. You go to plays at certain times of year, and their actors stand by the door and collect money, and that it was a very present in people's lives. Just in any, being a person in college, it was present in your social life, in your mind, and so. There are a lot of differences in the production. It's a completely different thing. I mean, to have 3 21-year-olds trying to grapple with these ideas, was just inherently going to be very different. But the people I did it with are my 2 best friends in the world, and they're coming down actually to see the show. The last weekend.
So, I'm just wondering, in terms of the way it was presented at Gallier Hall at the Todd Tracy Theater, was it vastly different from what you did in college, or?
I don't want to talk about the biggest differences because they have to do with the ending.
Okay.
But a lot of it was very similar. I mean, she's clear in the script about what it is that she wants to do, and you kind of can't do this play with a giant set pieces and big drops, right? Yeah. It moves very quickly and has to have this feel. I mean, I think one difference was we kind of glide from scene to scene, and the production that I was in many years ago had much sharper transitions from piece to piece to piece to piece to piece, sort of a stylistic difference. But I do think that there is no substitute for the lived experience of having seen people, gone through the process of seeing people get sick, and gone through the process of being a person who is helping them or struggling with that, navigating just life as a human being. There's a lot going on in this play, and
well, let's share a couple of scenes. First off, this is one with you, Michael, right in the front, and you can see that Carl and Anna are in the background there in the bed, because apparently as youngsters they did share the sleeping quarters with one another. And I think you're giving a lecture on, again, one of the elements of the lexicon that they come up with in terms of a word or a phrase, right?
Yeah, this is the Department of Health and Human Services giving guidance on how to deal with this disease, and basically saying we're not really actually going to do anything. We're just going to tell you, don't sit on toilet seats and don't lick your digits. Use the bathroom at home.
And there you are as the doctor. And again, this is early on. And John, you're very, very protective of your sister, I want to say.
Yeah. The chemistry between me and Elise just sort of began immediately. We had already known each other a little bit prior to this, and I actually came to read with her when she did her audition, and I was so excited to see her walk in the door because I knew what a vast talent she was.
Wow.
And yeah, when I found out that it was her, I was just elated, and we just clicked like brother and sister, which at times probably is not clicking at all.
It happens, yeah.
Yeah.
In the best of families. And Anna, I guess, penny for your thoughts.
No, I mean, just like what John said, I feel like all three of us, all of our chemistry in this cast has been really great. I've just really loved every minute of doing this. We just, we get along so well, and I feel like the vibe is just really great with the three of us, and we're all on the same page. And I don't know, it's been a treat.
It shows. It really does.
Yeah.
Again, for those of you looking for what I like to call counter programming, this is theater that is being presented on the nights when theater is not normally seen. So a Monday night, a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, a Thursday night. This is Fat Squirrel's going to be their I guess you might say their raison d'etre, if you will. Their plan of action is to do theater when other people are not doing theater. So if you have something to do on a weekend and you'd still like to see something performed on a stage and want to connect to theater and see a piece of great interest, etc., they're going to have this on for what, till the 30th? Is that about right? When is the
22nd?
The 22nd. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
22nd. So it's going to be next Thursday, a week from coming up. So you've got 4 more shots at the Apple, if you will. So again, tickets can be had online. I think it's, I'm trying to remember I'm gonna have to get the site again, but I think it's fatsquirrel.square.
Something like that.
Space dot that site. It's square space. I think it's square.site, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna look it up. I'll figure it out. In any event, I'll put that up in just a second so people can see that. But I know we're gonna lose Michael. Our third man is gonna have to leave to take care of the kids and put them to bed, make sure that they're going off to Neverland. But before you go off, Michael, are there any things that you wanted to sort of mention about your character that we didn't talk about already, or your characters? And who of all of them do you find the most resonance with, of all the characters you're doing?
That's great question. I mean, I certainly have my favorite parts. I really enjoy the French waiter part, and there's a part where I have to do a lot of very fast switches between the French waiter and the mysterious man. I don't know that I resonate with those guys so much, but that's fun. I mean, this has been so much fun. These guys know I haven't been in a play in 10 years, and so it's been incredibly fun to be able to do this production with these folks who are just so much fun and so easy and so generous. And it's just, the show has gotten, it feels like exponentially better each night. As well, Facebook user, thank you.
Yeah, if you want to put your name up, by the way, all you got to do is go to this site, put StreamYard.com/Facebook, and we'll know who you are. But short of that, you're going to be Facebook user only. All right. So, all right. Well, Michael, I know you're going to have to leave a little bit, but again, just real quick, you're playing the doctor, all kinds of other characters, etc. You played the role of Carl Pryor, for anybody who's just joining us. And how is it that you actually knew about this? How did you audition for this?
So,
you know, how did it happen to me that you got brought back into it again after that
yes.
many years?
Well, I had a funny experience right before the pandemic where I was like, the year 2020 is the year that I'm going to do another play. It's been too long. And so I found out about auditions. Yeah, right. Well, also, I found out about auditions for Angels in America at Le Petit, and I went to audition, got there, and kind of realized that I'm like, John's going to enjoy this. I'm like 50 years too old to be in that play, unless I was going to do the Roy Cohn part.
I was going to say, you can play Roy Cohn.
Roy Cohn part. So, so yeah, all of my dreams of a spectacular return were delayed. But I was in Pride and Prejudice, which with Desiree 10 years
Southern
ago.
Rep.
Yes, at Southern Rep. That's right. And
was that the one that was at the Ursuline Academy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With the rocking chairs, I remember that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And that was a hoot, but that was right before I had children, and since then I've sort of disappeared into the maw. And Desiree was kind enough to remember me and reach out to me and invite me to audition. And well, I don't know what inspired her to do that, but I am incredibly grateful.
I'm glad that she did. The play would not be the same without you. No, and definitely do not despair. You are missed. Come back to theater. You will be welcomed with open arms. Were you Heathcliff? What was that the part you? What part
Darcy.
Darcy. Yes, of course. Yeah. Pride and Prejudice. Yes.
I had very ridiculous, long, ridiculous lamb chops.
Yes. Well, anyway, Michael, take care of the babies. I don't know how old are they now.
They are 9, 6, and 18 months.
One is a baby.
You can do your own math on that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us. We'll try to hold the fort down without you. All right.
All right. Goodbye, guys.
We'll call this the third man. All right. So that means there's just 3 of us left.
Yeah.
Yours, mine, and ours. So I got to say that for those who are not familiar with it, Paula Vogel is quite an amazing playwright. Now, I was first exposed to Paula back at Loyola University. I saw a production with Jesse Terrebonne at that time of How I Learned to Drive. That had been on Broadway with Mary Stuart Masterson and David Morse, if I'm not mistaken. 25 years later, both of those actors reprised their roles on Broadway. I got to see the very first preview performance last year. And wow. It was amazing to see them. And of course, it's sort of like wearing, a pair of boots, they put the boots back on, but they hadn't yet gotten used to them. They had to work them in a little bit. But it was the first preview, and I knew they were going to be, fantastic towards the end of the play. But it was funny to see people, and I kept trying to imagine them 25 years younger doing these roles, because they're very adult roles. Yep. And it just seemed like, the David Morse role, especially, that he could have certainly, been considered a little too young to play the role. But in any event, that's where I started, with Paula Vogel. And I was very fortunate. I think it was 2016. I'm trying to remember the theater where it was, but on Broadway, they did a production of Indecent. Mm-hmm. Have any of you seen Indecent? Did you see it when it was a PBS show? And anybody who's seen it knows it's a very remarkable, very hauntingly chilling in some cases, but a play filled with love and remorse in many ways, about another play that was done more than a century ago by Sholem Asch called God of Vengeance. And she incorporates part of that play into Indecent. And it's a reference to this play that was really considered a remarkable piece of theater, toured all over Europe. And when it came to the United States in, I think, 1923 or so, it received an arrest raid from the police, because there was a scene where 2 women, and it was the first time that actually in theater, 2 women kissed on stage. Oh. And of course, for people who are conscious gay history and gay theater, etc. It was a remarkable moment, one that needed to be noted. But everywhere else in Europe and all around, nobody paid any attention to that. It was a scene that was just taken as part of the storyline. But it comes to the United States, and all of a sudden, the actors are arrested. They shut down the production, and most of the players, it was revealed later on, of course, and this is where the real heartbreaking part of the plays. Most of the people who were playing it were Yiddish actors who were from the areas in Germany and Poland, etc., who ended up having to go back to Germany and Poland and places like that, and many of them did not survive the Holocaust. So it's a a sad tale, because had that play taken off, which it probably would have, many of these people might have stayed in the United States and had stellar careers as actors, but was not meant to be. So again, Indecent was another piece that she did, and really, I'm just going to say this: nobody really can remember where a closing notice was posted for a show, and the uproar of the people was so much that they took it down. That's exactly what happened. I had tickets to see the show in July, and they posted a closing notice in June, and the tumultuous reply from everybody was, "Do not close this show down." So the producers relented, and they had it play out all the way to the time, and my tickets were good, so I got to see it anyway, and it was great. But if you ever get a chance, PBS did do a production of this that they filmed from I guess it was at the theater. I want to say it was the Ethel Barrymore Theater. I think that's where it was. But in any event, if you get a chance to see it, I really recommend you see it, because it really is very touching. And of course, there are elements of people who were gay in it, in a sense, that with actors, etc. But that's not what it's about. It really is really more about that one scene, which takes place in the rain. They call it the rain scene, where the two girls kiss and they share a moment together. But God Avenged is a very interesting play. And if you ever, John, I know you're a little bit interested sometimes in some of the Jewish aspects. It's a story that is fraught with all kinds of peril, because the person who is actually trying to advance himself and be elevated in the eyes of the community and in God, etc., is trying to have a Torah scroll, and he's getting the Torah scroll essentially on the backs of the prostitutes he's maintaining in his brothel downstairs. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is he thinking?
Yeah. Right.
Let's get back to this, though. I'm sorry about that. But
No,
Paula Vogel is a very important playwright. That's what I'm trying to emphasize, is the fact that she's written some really remarkable pieces. And How I Learned to Drive, of course, deals with a lot of abuse. This really doesn't have abuse. This really is a tale from the heart.
Yeah.
She really wants. She misses her brother, and she wants to have a way of trying to reach out to him and basically say, I miss you. I love you, and I wish you were still here. So
I think that was part of what made this accessible for me, as someone, like, I have very little acting experience, but the fact that this was a real person and she is paying such beautiful homage to him in a way that even throughout this sort of dreamscape that she is creating, he is the center of authenticity for this story. And I think that made it much easier for me to step in to the role of him, because I could imagine what it would be like to be that real person and to be going through this.
As Carl, is there one particular scene that you enjoy doing more than the others?
Yes, there's a few fantastic scenes, and Elisa's probably gonna laugh at me for this, because it's the scene I'm most terrified to do every night.
I knew you were going to say this.
But there's a slideshow at the top of the second act that he's telling the story of his trip through Europe as some slides, and this is sort of the first time that the audience is really clued into what is happening. But he is so full of life in that scene, talking about something that he is just so desperately in love with and excited about. And I really think that the way Paula presents him in that scene is just fantastic. She touches almost every side of his facet of his personality in that scene. Everything from his joy and his the way he relates to places and people and things, all the way down to how he reacts in a fight. And so I just really love that scene and think it's beautiful. But honestly, every night I am just pooping my pants before we do it because it does feel so important to me to get it right.
And you do get it right.
80% of the time.
So in case you're wondering, anybody need to get tickets, that's where you can go, right to the site, fatsquirrelnola.square.site. I couldn't remember it offhand, but
Yeah.
I knew kind of what it was.
Something
But
about
we're going to let that run for a little while so people can see that. Elise, what's your favorite scene, if I may? I'm sure you've got plenty, but tell me a little bit about why.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes, I think it's the scene where Anna is going through the stages of coming to terms with dying. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like denial, anger, all of the different stages, and just getting to, go from each different one and just kind of show different parts of, grieving was something that I really resonated with. Just it is not even be like grieving yourself, like just grieving somebody else's life, like even when it's not about yourself, like you can still be grieving somebody else and still going through those stages of grief. And so that was something that really stuck out to me and that I've enjoyed every night doing.
So have you ever heard of Kubler-Ross before? Did you know who that was?
No. I can't even tell you how many things I had to look up in this play. The first time I read it was Googling the whole time.
So essentially, she came up with a book called The 7 Stages of Grief, and if I'm not mistaken, you hit on a couple of them as far as it goes. But the idea being that people go through a good number of these things in order to be able to deal with the whole concept of death and dying, etc. And the first one that you mentioned was first off is shock. That's the first one, and I don't think you mentioned that when you mentioned denial.
Yeah,
which is there, and then there's anger, and then there's bargaining. Then there's depression. One that I don't remember you mentioned was called reconstruction, and then finally acceptance, and that's the part where you get to move on is the acceptance. But
maybe reconstruction is labeled as hope in the play.
I think you might be right because I don't remember the word reconstruction. Yeah, right. Reconstruction might indeed be that. So, but again, that goes on not just with death. It's the stages you go through when you lose a job.
Absolutely.
When you lose a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, that's a rough weekend. I tell you.
But anyway, so yeah. I mean, I just didn't know whether or not you had any concept of that book before. But it's a fairly famous book now, and again, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if it's as much on the minds of a lot of people out there. I want to remind everybody too. You're tuned in today to NOLA Theater Talk. We're talking right now about the play, which is the Baltimore Waltz. Okay, another one of the elephant in the room. Okay, she starts off in Baltimore. Obviously, but why do they call it the Baltimore Waltz? Why?
I think it's, without revealing too much of the play, I think that it's they sort of dance around the fact that despite that you are on a trip throughout Europe, you really never leave Baltimore. Right. And I think that it just sort of does this, right. 1, 2, 3 around that idea for the whole show.
And I'm not going to reveal, like I said, we don't want to talk about endings and things of that sort, or reveal anything that would take away from somebody really going and appreciating the production as it is. But yeah, I mean, but somebody may say, well, they're in Europe now. What does that have to do? I'm trying to get that out so people will understand that yes, she wrote this. Her brother had passed, and so it was her way of kind of dealing with it and thinking about what might have been had they gone on that trip together. And again, I think about that, many, many times about, with certain other aspects of my life as well. Had I had a chance to go on a trip that I wanted to go to, and should I have changed things? You always have regret. You always say, I wonder what if, so you never really know, and that's one of those things. But again, this is playing at the Ty Tracy Theater, Fat Squirrel production. And
what a great space too, right?
I don't know that anybody could come up with a nicer, it's a small theater, but a nicer theater. It reminds me, obviously I'd seen many shows there back in the day.
Yeah, sure.
But it reminds me, anybody who knows of the Actors Theater that used to be in Elmwood, it's about the same size as that.
Yeah.
You're not going to have more than probably 100 people that'll be in there. I don't even know if it'll.
Yeah, I think it's 102.
And so, you've got just a nice intimate audience.
Yeah.
Backstage, is there any kind of fly space back there, or is it really tight?
It is pretty tight on the stage. The wings are not there. The dressing rooms are larger than the wings.
and I noticed there are two curtains that you're all using in the production too, right?
Oh yeah. They actually have 3 travelers though. Mm-hmm. And we don't even use the third one.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. I can't imagine any show needing it though.
I know.
Talk about old style. Yeah. But
it's a very deep stage too. It goes back really, really far.
Yes, I noticed that as well. Now, Elise, how familiar are you with who Ty Tracy was? Any idea? None.
Not very familiar. Just a couple of stories that I've been told here and there, but.
Mm-hmm. And John, you have been in New Orleans a long time too. Did you ever actually get a chance to meet Ty or not?
I did not, but I have spoken to many people who sing his praises with his work with Nord and just the theater community in general here in New Orleans.
Well, think about it in these terms. Brian Batt, Lance Nichols. And I'm trying to think who else. I'm sure there's several people besides that. Some well-noted performers got their first break on the stage at Ty Tracy's theater. At that time, it was the Nord Theater. And
there is a photo in the lobby of the theater of Brian Batt, maybe 15.
Yeah, I think there's actually 2 of Brian. I think there's side by side 2 pictures of Brian.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if you know the story about he was in a performance after Nord. It was, I'm not quite sure where it was, a Summer Lyric or whatever, but the great actor Helen Hayes, considered the first lady of the American stage, actually arranged for a dinner or lunch with Brian's parents because Brian's father was dead set against it. And if you ever saw the play Dear Mr. Williams, he recounts how Helen Hayes was instrumental in getting his parents to relent and allow him to have an acting career because they really didn't want him to be an actor. It was as Mel Brooks would say, actors, they're beneath me, right?
The
point
it was embarrassing.
He actually had Helen Hayes of all people come to bat for him because she said he's such a phenomenal actor. And indeed, I think that anybody who's seen Brian's work or know, of his commitment to the craft know, she was absolutely spot on. And although she's not here anymore, I would like to think that Brian will pay that forward too. If he sees somebody who he is struck by, that he'll maybe be able to get them to,
it wouldn't surprise me. I've had the opportunity to work with him a couple times on a couple different things, and he's always been very generous of his spirit,
So, again, the Baltimore Waltz is going to be showing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Does it make you kind of sad that you're already halfway through the run? I mean, you really literally have gone through all 4 performances of the first week, and you've got 4 more left.
I'm just starting to get really good, Alan. I'm just starting.
And again, isn't that the way it is? Theater is like that. It's lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
you know, and you capture it and then you release it. That's it. It's gone, you know.
And it's that's, you know, that's why we love it, right? That's why I've loved it since I was 7 years old and saw my first show.
Which was what?
Pirates of Penzance.
Oh, very nice. Gilbert and Sullivan to start things off.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about maybe doing some of that later?
Me?
Come on.
I'd like to see you in the role of the Major General doing a little patter song.
I can't even make my mouth move that fast.
and Elise, where did you get started? Where are you from originally?
I'm from here. I'm from New Orleans. So I did some theater in lower school, elementary school, here and there, but I didn't really get started until my sophomore year of high school. Also with Pirates of Penzance. That was
really
my first show.
No wonder you all have that simpatico.
I know. We have so many things that we can
So now what role did you play? Were you
I was one of the Major General's daughters.
One of the daughters. But not the lead, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, it could have been worse, you know.
It was my first play. My parents were terrified. I'm kind of a shy person. Believe it or not. It's hard to believe because I do theater, but they were worried that I wasn't gonna do it, that I was going to freeze. But
now speaking of schools, your work now is taking you to a school, right?
Yes.
Which was my son's alma mater.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh, yeah. He went, and
nice
by the way, he got the little N, you know, little small pin that they wear, the little N for Newman. You know how much that pin cost me? I told David. I said,
oh no, $40,000.
I wish that pin was for 12 years of school at Newman. Back then, Newman was probably about a quarter what it is now. But back then, that was over $100,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
People don't even think about.
But you got that pin.
Yeah.
Oh, I got that pin. Now he's got the pin. I'm not quite sure what he did with it.
You don't even have the pin.
Yeah. He's got the pin.
But that's okay. I tell you.
But now, so how is it to work at Newman? Are you doing school? Revolving about theater in any way, or what?
So it's kind of hard to balance it. I can't lie. It is a full day I teach preschool. So since I've been at Newman, I've had 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds. The last few years I've been with 2-year-olds, which, is exhausting for 9 hours. But, I really love it. I think this is my other great love along with theater is being with children. So as exhausting as it is, my heart is in both of them. So I make it work.
Console yourself with the fact that you're with children all during the day, and at night now you're with John.
It's just, not much changes.
No, not at all.
I eat more candy, I think.
It's true. It's true. I don't give the kids the amount of candy that John eats.
Well, we've got a few more minutes left, and I just again want to reiterate, this is a lovely production. If you want to get tickets, fatsquirrelnola.square.site. That's where you need to go, and just write that down right now so you can, have track as to where you can get tickets. And I'm trying to remember what the cost was. Do you remember what they were? Or,
they're $25.
Okay, so it's a reasonable amount, and it as they said, it runs about an hour and a half. Plus, there's about a 15-minute intermission, and it's in a lovely place. I want to also remind everybody that this takes place at night, and there is plenty of street parking. If you get there, you can find plenty of street parking that's around there in that area, or park on Barone Street and walk over. There's lots of places because the meters are not being after 7 o'clock. The meters are not registering where you can get a ticket or anything like that. So, and if it's on a Sunday, even better. You don't have to worry about feeding the meter. So, just again, go see the show if you can. I really recommend it very highly. And you got a few other shows that are on the boards right now too that are competing. So the fact that you're going up against the Music Man at Tulane at Summer Lyric, they've got another shows, and they've also got at Tulane the Shakespeare Festival is having 12th night, and you've got Crescent City Stage on the Loyola campus at Marquette. So you've got all of those shows actually going. I don't know. Is Rivertown yet doing something or not yet? I know they have Newsies they're going to be doing soon, so they've got that as well.
Children's show on right
So,
now.
so yeah, they may have a children's show. That's very possible. But again, there's no reason during the week that you don't have anything to do to go check this out. Okay, so we've pretty much covered the play, pretty much covered most of the action that takes place, and I'm I'd like to kind of like explore a little bit more with what you guys are doing personally. So, with the last few minutes remaining, we have a couple minutes or so for both of you. John, tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing, because I know at one point you had been involved with I guess you might say it, the Fringe Fest post
Fringe Fest.
Post Fringe Fest, because at one point it was a faux fest and whatever, and then again the pandemic set in, and you tell me now that you're going to be passing that title on to somebody else, right? So we'll be looking for a new Fringe Fest.
Yeah, I've been. Well, I am. I went to school for baking over the course of the pandemic, and so now I'm a baker in the daytimes, and I find that to be a really rewarding creative outlet as well. I will say, though, that I have a couple, mostly before this, I have also been known as a writer. So this, I've just started to sort of feel the bug a little bit, and I've got a few things that I had been working on that I had sort of let fall.
Well, you did write Brick, which was sort of the follow-up to Tennessee Williams's Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and imagining, if you will, of the character Brick many years later, right?
Or just sort of taking the themes of these like men who are sort of forced to be in the closet because of social circumstances, and then how they are reacting to a world that is becoming more accepting when they already have these lives built that had led them away from that. So
okay, so you're a baker. Elise, you're a teacher. Tell me a little bit about what you got as far as any plans. You got any other shows coming up?
I don't have anything lined up currently. I am hoping to, get back into auditioning more regularly and getting back out there. After the pandemic, I mean, everybody kind of took a little break, but getting back into it was a lot harder for me. I don't know why. I got really stuck into, being at home and not seeing anybody, and auditioning got really scary again. So this has been nice to, get back in it and boost up my confidence a little bit.
Such a supportive group of people that have come together for this show too. I cannot imagine how it would have been any better of an experience, for me at least. It's just been fantastic.
No, it's been so special.
Let's go ahead and also mention the fact that Fat Squirrel now has a working partnership with someone which will allow them to get donations for you to write off your taxes. So if you want to use this site, fatsquirrelnola.square.site, and you can also make some tax deductible donations through their partner. And I think it's something something or other.
Fractured Atlas.
Yes, Fractured Atlas. And again, if you want to make a donation, I'm sure they would appreciate whatever it is. As they say, it's helping to pay the rent on the theater, doing any of the upkeep. The monies that are raised from the ticket prices basically go to the actors and
the stage managers and basically all the artists that are participating.
So keep that in mind, that you can help out quite a bit by going to that site, fatsquirrelnola.square.site, and either buying tickets or making a donation. And it's an all-in-one service site. You can actually see all the entire season on there as well. I know they've got several other shows coming up, but I don't want to go into all that right now. Main thing is to concentrate on this, the Baltimore Waltz by Paula Vogel, again starring Michael Stone as the third man, John Broder as Carl, and Elise McDaniel as Anna. And again, thanks guys for being with us. We're already got to the end of the road. And again, I appreciate you being able to do this on a Friday. as you may or may not remember, I did these every Monday and Friday during the pandemic. But
Yeah.
once the theaters opened up, it was difficult for me to come on a Friday and do
Yeah.
something, because most of the time people are off on a Monday or they're doing rehearsals and they don't want to come on the show on a Monday necessarily.
Yeah.
So I understand, I appreciate that. So I appreciate
Yeah.
your being able to do this
Of
on a
course.
Friday, which is your off night, would
Yeah.
normally be an on night for everybody else. Okay, stick around for a second. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody else. And again, thank you all for being with me tonight. My name's Alan Smason. Again, this is NOLA Theater Talk. And those of you who missed out on seeing it, this is going to be on the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, also shown on the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, not the theatercriticism.com site, which is a site for theater reviews, but the Facebook support page for social media, and also my own YouTube channel. Hopefully you can check those out. And thank you all for being with me. And as always, I will see you at the theater.